Hey everyone, Emperor here. With Bellum in active development, I wanted to make a video to show you my take on how a good military simulation game would look and play like. This video is meant to serve as a suggestion wishlist and not as a demand from the devs. I hope that would be seen as obvious. Now, do understand that most of these suggestions are foundation level concepts and mechanics. They might not necessarily explain how a system is designed, but instead explain the intended gameplay effect it will bring. Before we get into the actual system suggestions, I want to make clear the mindset I'm coming in with when it comes to gaming. First of all, let's talk about what Bellum is going to be. We don't have an exact idea, but assuming from all the context we have so far, I believe it's going to be a mix between something like Arma 3, with its sandboxy nature of approaching a situation, combined with all the controls and functions you can get from its mods like Blue for tracking, drones, etc., together with some more hardcore realism aspects of asymmetric warfare seen in Karmakut's Killcog events, while packaging all of that in a replayable, easy to jump in and out, objective-based gameplay loop, like the matches you see in Squad. Now, when it comes to my mindset and how I think a game should be designed around, these are my foundations. Organic gameplay design. All of the game systems are following one vision, in this case realism, and therefore complement and not conflict each other. Naturally occurring gameplay. Anything from simple mechanical actions to UI to teamwork should be diegetic and not obstruct the flow of the experience. Consequence-based laws. Instead of a gamey balance that restricts the player to a specific thought process, you would instead have consequences that would stem from a quote-unquote natural set of laws that would allow the player limitless agency while reminding him of the phrase, "It's not a matter of can you do it, but a matter of should you do it." This would also apply for things like being able to drive enemy vehicles at the risk of friendly fire. And lastly, emotional attachment. A lot of games, especially the ones trying to be more realistic, usually forget this most crucial part. In order for people to care more about a mechanic, the game needs to put meaning to said mechanic. If a player's death only resulted in a 5-second respawn timer till you get back in action, life is meaningless. If a vehicle can be obtained easily, then caring for your vehicle is also meaningless. And so on. I hope this explains some aspects of the thought process behind my suggestions, and now let's finally begin. Number 1. Physicalized actions, animations, and systems. Any player action or item should be part of the game world and not part of a UI, just like the trailer's Blue for tracker, with actions being synced in multiplayer, visible for all to see. This will result in a more immersive experience, but it will also affect gameplay, because players will visually understand what other players are doing, therefore in certain situations, being able to strategize and prevent said actions. Another applicable example is an action like changing a tire or getting in and out of vehicles require physical access to the wheel, hatch, or door, therefore requiring players to make more conscious actions lest they face the relevant consequences. Number 2. Both teams should be able to interact with the other side. Voice over IP, accessing inventories, mounting vehicles, nothing should be obstructed. The whole point here is to drill in the idea that you should always be mindful of your enemy and make sure to take care of your assets lest they get used against you. Overextending with a mounted gun, for example, and losing it should result in the enemy taking advantage of that. Number 3. A configurable VOIP system that allows communication between players directly and through radio should be affected by the environment and its hazards. Being able to communicate important information no matter what the situation or location you're in simply makes the labor of communicating meaningless. Having a more realistic system will discourage players to communicate reactively, which could be heard by the enemy or just not come through at all, and instead learn to communicate ahead of time. Number 4. Terrain playing a more important role in player locomotion and planning. In many games, terrain traversal difficulty is often of minimal importance. Bringing meaning to a small steep hill in the form of a more involved and exhausting traversal will allow for more options for both defenders and attackers by being able to pick and choose macro or micro terrain to help with their plans. Maybe time is of the essence and a unit needs a more direct route, or they want to play safe and take the longer one. Number 5. Health, stamina, and encumbrance systems that play a deeper role than a normal resource or numerical limitation. Part of the meaningful and organic design, here we would have 3 systems all working together towards one purpose. Having a stamina system that is more than just a replenishing bar, but an accumulating fatigue system that needs proper management, together with a weight encumbrance system that affects the speed of or accuracy of actions performed by the player, as well as a health system that affects the ability to perform actions, such as one-handed reloads or the inability to climb over stuff with a wounded arm. All 3 systems would allow for more meaningful gameplay, with getting wounded bearing consequences, stamina management being a constant consideration and not just a meaningless refillable resource, and equipment encumbrance playing a big role in the ability to perform actions comfortably. Number 6. An inventory system that allows for freedom of choice while maintaining balance through a natural mechanics approach philosophy, along with a simplistic equipment customization system that allows you to pick the right tools for the job through different backpack and vest systems. The inventory system will focus around a container system where you will be able to put anything you'd like in your vest or backpack, provided you have the necessary storage space within specific containers to do so. It means that someone could theoretically take 50 magazines on his person, but he could only reload a maximum of, say, 4 at a time, due to his vest having 4 pouches that carry a single mag each. If he wanted to access more, he would have to drop his backpack and check, which would be a more involved process, or change to a different vest. And the customization is not intended as a Barbie simulation system, where you spend hours putting on cute skins and other bullshit, but for the more important role of making sure you and your team is appropriately equipped for the task ahead. Something like a minimalistic plate carrier with limited pouches and a small backpack would be perfectly suited for scouting elements, whereas a more protective setup with more grenade pouches would be more suited for breaching units, and so on. And number 7. Randomization of terrain, objectives, and objects. Randomization of the terrain around POIs, or points of interest, then the POIs themselves, as well as the objects inside them. This feature will, depending on how extreme it is, reduce the problem of habit-based gameplay, that is metagaming, by changing the layout of a map every single time, requiring players to explore and adapt their tactics to new situations. Something like having a warehouse location in the previous match now being a health resort with multiple rooms, or an easy-to-cross farmland for vehicles now being a huge lake, will all require a different approach each time, leading to meaningful communication and planning. Now, this is definitely not an exhaustive list of what I would like to see in a game. However, I think that these systems are a massive boost to not only the cool stuff like immersion, realism, or tactical, but also to avoid having to create gaming rules and mechanics to balance the imbalance that is created with gamey system design. For example, needing to climb out of a tank's hatch to repair the vehicle instead of teleporting in and out would naturally make the crewmen averse to overextending with their vehicle unsupported. I think the most descriptive phrase would be, "the devil is in the details." That's all I had for this video. I really hope the game sticks to his guns, and we can see that realism can be fun aspect, as Karma could put it before. Have a good one, guys. Huey Emperor, out.